Make sure you guys hit that like button, leave a comment, please subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comment section you want to see more. I'm going to make this video about an hour long. This review will be like an hour long. So while I'm playing Mafia, I will talk about Monday Night Raw. And I will talk about what happened on the show, the matches on the show, what we got. I will talk about the news and rumor for AEW. And also give my review on the AEW pay-per-view, AEW World's End. It was on, I think it was on Saturday, so I will talk about that. I have a lot to talk about in the wrestling community here. Now, my video has been sponsored by Fightful Wrestling and JD from New York, Solomon the Sound Off, Just Outlet Wrestling Inc., No DQ, and the other podcaster that do WWE review that I know of. The other podcaster that I know of. So what happened on Monday Night Raw was now the show opened up with the New Day came out. They still came out with their New Day theme song. They got Heel Heat, which I thought were great. They were interrupted by Jey Uso. And then we got a segment with Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline. Solo saying he's gonna beat Roman Reigns and remain Tribal Chief. And then Jey, he got attacked by Drew McIntyre. So they announced Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre next week on the debut of Netflix. We did get a pretty good match with Chad Gable and Otis. That was a pretty good match on the show. Sheamus returns and ruins Ludwig Kaiser's moment. So Ludwig and Sheamus and Ludwig are still gonna be feuding.
How you doing?
As for the tournaments, we got Lyra Valkyria beat Io Sky in the Women's Intercontinental Title Tournament, so she now advances. She'll face Dakota Kai next week. She'll face Dakota Kai next week, and I think that will crown the new Women's Intercontinental title. Because Dakota Kai defeated Zoe Stark in a pretty good match to advance in the tournament. So we will see Lyra Valkyria and Dakota Kai. And we'll see who will be crowned the new Women's Intercontinental Champion. That's going to be on the debut of Netflix, I think. We did get Damian Priest and the War Raiders defeat the Judgment Day, Balor, JD McDonough, and Dominic, I think. So they go over here. Obviously, the feud between Balor and Priest is going to continue. We're waiting for it to be over. And hopefully they tell a different story here. Now, the ending of the show was a very good face-to-face with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Punk and Rollins closed the show. That was the segment that closed the show. It was very good. I think that was it. There wasn't that much on the show, really. Maybe the opener and maybe the ending. Oh yeah, I forgot. We did get Pete Dunne attack R-Truth. Pete Dunne savagely attacked R-Truth before the match could even take place. We were supposed to get R-Truth and Pete Dunne, but the match never took place. So Pete Dunne savagely attacked R-Truth, beat him up. Obviously, the feud going to continue. So we did get a lot of vignettes. We had a great promo package with Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. Then we had one with Rhea and Liv. They had a very good promo package to hype up their match for next week. Morgan and Ripley set the scene for next week on Raw. We also had a very good segment, a look back on the greatest moments on Monday Night Raw, one that involved Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Outside of that, that was it. Wasn't really anything that really happened on the show, really. Wasn't nothing much. Now, Jey Uso said the New Day sucks. That was the opening match of the show. And Drew McIntyre clobbered Jey with a Claymore. Now their match will be on Netflix next week. So we got a couple matches. We got CM Punk and Seth Rollins that will headline. I'm not sure if that's gonna open or main event, but that will be on the show. We got Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso. We got Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship in a last woman standing match. And I believe we'll get Lyra Valkyria and Dakota Kai. And we'll see who crowned the Women's Intercontinental title. I think we'll get that. I don't think we'll make it official, but I think we'll get that. I assume we will. I think we'll crown a new Women's Intercontinental title. It's gonna be Lyra or Dakota. Now we are gonna get Punk and Rollins. We will get Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in a tribal combat match. Winner the real tribal chief. Now let's talk about the news and rumors. Cause I think that was it. I think that's all I got on that one. Wasn't that much. Besides the message for next week and the message what we got on the show and some of the segments. As for AEW World's End, that was on Saturday. It was a very good show. I think the show was like 4 hours. It went close to 4 hours. There were 8 matches on the card. We got the return of Adam Copeland and Kenny Omega. They returned at the end. They attacked John Moxley. We had some good matches with Ricochet. World's End supposedly returned that back. World's End was a good show. And toilet paper Ricochet. Former AEW star coming to WWE. Netflix made huge requests. Okay, so trying to see if I can get to the news and rumors here. We know that Omega back, Colton back. I think AEW screwed up at World End. I already talked about SmackDown in my review. Now these are the reviews from the podcasters that I know of. Joe Cronin, JD from New York. They put Tony Khan's last AEW pay-per-view of 2024. We know that Omega and FTR returned. Omega confronts Okada, and Adam Copeland, he confronts John Moxley. He put him in the what's it called? That crossface where he put the bar on his face, a bar in his mouth. I thought that was great. Now these are the news and rumors. Wait, I think I already saw that one. Tony Khan believes Aaron CM Punk and Jack Perry will lead to something. It might lead to backlash or controversy. Tony Khan had lost his mind. Alright, you know what? Alright, now hold on a second. Alright,
Yeah.
well, look at this.
You Big Jim?
Detective Jim McCormick.
All right, detective. I heard you have a problem with Marcano's drug
Alright,
operation in the French Quarter.
Boy, it's this whole...
probably should turn out the volume. Because while I talk about this, or maybe it doesn't matter.
serious problem. This man, Doc Gaston, was burrowed down like a fucking cockroach, pumping the whole city full of poison.
Where's Doc Gaston operate out of?
If I knew that, I'd have him in a cell. Biggest goddamn pusher in the city, and no one knows a fucking thing.
Alright, so, now this is not a mission that's really important for me to, like, listen to, so I'm gonna get back to my review on wrestling.
Can't get any closer, but your friend says you're good at getting information out of people.
Alright, so we got the end of Monday Night Era.
Found some of Doc Gaston's boys. Probably the only way to get him to talk.
Here's Saul out the sound off. He's talking right now.
And it's time for Rhea to move on to something else. And Liv Morgan is going to move down the card because of it. She's not going to be the beneficiary of losing, but it's time to move on, and I think we do next week. I think next week we're going to get Becky Lynch back on the show. I'd be shocked if she wasn't there. John Cena, they're advertising that John Cena's retirement tour kicks off next week. Is it going to be a case where John Cena comes out next week and he becomes the first man to announce formally for the Royal Rumble match? I think he will. Because you know he's going to be in the Rumble. Why shouldn't he be the first man to declare next week?
Gaston's been good at
Find
staying
out.
under the radar.
Got to be doing something.
Cops figure if people want to get dope,
We have the New Day and Rey Mysterio, and there's a tag team match. I don't think they specifically said it would take place next week, but it looks like Penta is going to be tied into that, which I talked about last week. I think that's a good spot for him to debut. So there's a lot to look forward to next week. But the Punk and the Rollins stuff was one highlight. The other highlight of the night tonight was one of the semifinal matches we got in the women's tournament to crown an Intercontinental Champion. Io Sky, Lyra Valkyria. Probably the most unpredictable match in the entire tournament. I was sticking to my guns. If you watched the review last week, sticking to my guns about Lyra, going all the way. But there were a lot of people who thought, well, with Io Sky now being in the tournament, surely she's going to at least go to the finals, and we're going to get an all damage control final. And boy, did WWE want you to believe that we were going to get an all damage control final tonight, to the point where they leaned in on it a little too hard. And if I wasn't convinced that Lyra was winning going into this, it was clear as day as the match progressed who was going over in that match. They tipped their hat a little too much. But Lyra and Io went out there and they had an excellent match. One of the better women's matches on WWE television that they have had in a while. These two went out there and I thought they killed it tonight, and it's all good news because even though Io Sky is not going to the finals for the Intercontinental Championship, this is a good thing if you are a fan of Io Sky, because I think that this greatly enhances her chances of doing something much more significant as we head into WrestleMania. That match, by the way, the finals with Lyra and with Dakota Kai, not taking place next week. They're holding off on that for 2 weeks. So January 13th is when we are going to get the finals of that tournament, which I guess I understand because it is going to be completely overshadowed by everything else that's going on next week. Not that they couldn't fit it on the show, but I get it. You know, I get wanting to save something special for the weekend, right? You blow your load next week and you got nothing left over for the following Monday. So we'll have to wait 2 weeks to find out who the first Intercontinental Champion is going to be. We have an entire show here to talk about. The final Raw on USA Network. This is your Monday Night Raw review. It is December 30th, 2024. I am the Solid Monster. Like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me here on a Monday night. Super chats are open. As they come in, you will see them popping up on your screen. I do appreciate the support. I will be reading all of your messages. This is not, by the way, the final stream of 2024. That will come tomorrow. Because tomorrow night, I'm going to be live here on YouTube, and it is our annual Make It Till Midnight stream. Countdown to 2025. That is coming up.
Alright, let's show you Denise Salcedo. I'm gonna show the other podcaster, Denise Salcedo.
Say about this here, but we had the New Day come out, and they are obviously getting booed. We get New Day sucks chants. Jey Uso comes out, he tells them they suck too, and then after this, Drew McIntyre comes out, and Claymore's Jey Uso, they kind of go at it back and forth a little bit, but Drew McIntyre is the one that's able to, rise above here and basically kicks his ass, even with the help of security coming through, trying to keep them apart from each other. But in regards to the New Day, though, I was expecting a little bit more there, but it seems like they've been mostly wanting to sell the fact that the crowd should be booing. I feel like right now as a crowd, we're being trained. We're being trained that every time you see them, you just boo, and that's it.
I feel like you've hit it on the head. I feel like that's what they're doing with the New Day. They've done it with, hey, look, even Dominic Mysterio thinks that they're messed up. They keep doing these things that are kind of like training the audience to remind them and continue to tell them what they did is so bad that you need to boo them out of the building. And I feel like they did it again by having the crowd boo the New Day out of the building, only to be followed by the most popular guy in the WWE, so that we can see the difference between what a beloved guy sounds like and what the hated guy sounds like. So they keep doing these like physical like training sessions on fans that we need to hate the New Day. Like, it can't get more overt that we need to hate the New Day than when the mom hates the New Day. So at one point or another, though, Denise, they're going to need to give us a little bit more substance. I'm okay with what they're doing right now. But at some point, they're going to need to give us a little bit more substance, and I feel like we might be getting it here with Rey Mysterio, where he said that he's going to have a tag team partner. Some people are expecting Penta. I hope that's not the case. Please do not put Penta in the LWO. That is not where he belongs. Please do not do that. But back to the New Day. At some point, you can't just rely on the one-trick pony of a gimmick of we go out there and get booed. Sure, it works with Dominic Mysterio, and it did. But to a degree, like, that's an outlier. You can't rely on an outlier situation. And if you want to see an example of where this isn't working, Butch. That whole gimmick of don't call me Butch, where they keep doing it every single week, I'm done. I've lost interest. You killed this character for me. You need to give us eventually a little bit more substance. And I still feel like there's plenty of runway for the New Day. But I'm just saying, at some point, plane's got to take off.
You want to know why I hate the Butch storyline? Because, so he was going by the name Butch, and he had no problem with it, right? And then all of a sudden, we get the name change back to Pete Dunne. Great. But then the storyline became about his old name, and I'm like, why? Why did it become about his old name when we moved on to his new name now? Why is the storyline about that? Can you imagine if Piper Niven's storyline was about when she was being called Dewdrop? Or if Gunther was like, I'm not Gunther, I'm Walter, or, some crazy thing like that. It's so freaking silly, and I hate that they reduced Pete Dunne, who is such a great wrestler, to a weird, it's supposed to be a comedy bit, but it's not even comedy.
I think it's supposed to be comedy because R-Truth is there. It's literally like,
as of right now, they are the main event for next week's Monday Night Raw. Things could obviously change depending on what The Rock wants to do. We don't know if he's going to be there. We don't know if he's going to miss next week's show. We don't really know what's going on there, so obviously things can change. But right now they are slated for the main event of Monday Night Raw on Netflix next week. Unbelievable stare down, unbelievable face-to-face. They both came out like fire-breathing dragons tonight. and they dropped bombs on each other, as they should. It was the final push. It was the go home. It was the final sell for this mega match next week that will be the catalyst on the debut on Netflix. And that's a masterclass of how to sell a match. Punk came out and immediately you knew he meant business. Rollins came out looking goofy as he usually does. But at points tonight, Rollins, he spit that fire right back at CM Punk, and they both made a great case as to why both of them should be the #1 priority coming off of Monday Night Raw going into WrestleMania season. So I thought what they did was fantastic stuff. We got the Judgment Day. Finn Balor and Damian Priest are still at each other's throats, but it will not be with the OG Judgment Day theme. The Other Side by my favorite band, Alter Bridge. That is no more. They now have some generic AI produced garbage from Def Rebel. Def Rebel had to go out with a bang for 2024. And now the Judgment Day is slightly less than they were last week. So we'll talk about the Judgment Day, and we will discuss the New Day. Judgment Day, the New Day, they got some massive heat. Jey Uso got an overwhelming, huge babyface reaction, and Drew McIntyre got just a little bit more revenge on everybody that has decided to stand side by side with the OG, the OTC, Roman Reigns. So we will definitely go over all that tonight on the Monday Night Raw post show right here on Off the Script. This is the very last stream that yours truly will be doing for 2024.
Yeah, me too.
I want to thank you guys for it.
Alright, so that was JD from New York. He talked about Monday Night Raw.
Drew McIntyre with like more than 50% of the vote. And I feel, I'm like, that's great. The fact that people are like acknowledging this. I mean, they're picking him as 2024 MVP over Cody Rhodes, who literally had a whole ass movement that got The Rock out of the WrestleMania main event and kept Cody Rhodes' WrestleMania main event. And still, people are voting for Drew McIntyre as MVP of 2024. That tells me that what Drew didn't just work for me, but it worked for the masses of people, and you gotta reward that. Like, Drew is doing good work, you gotta reward that. So if they do your scenario and we end up in a situation where we get Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, I'm here for that. And part of me, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm gonna be kind of rooting for Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
100%. I feel like that scenario opens up so many intriguing things. Not because I don't feel like that's a main event worthy match, but I wouldn't expect Roman versus Drew in just a match where they hate each other with nothing on the line in terms of like titles, for that to close out any of the Mania nights, which would just create such a fun scenario of having to fantasy book what would main event night 1 and night 2. Because that opens up the door for Punk and Rollins again, maybe potentially. Who knows?
Do you think there's a scenario where we get Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns? Because that's another one that we've been waiting for.
Sure.
And Seth was obviously very pissed off at everybody being out there helping out Roman Reigns, and he made it very, very clear to Solo Sikoa that if he's ever in the ring again, it's going to be against Roman Reigns.
I do think that there is a possibility where that happens. It's hard to connect those dots right now, because even though they are kind of hovering each other in terms of storylines, like the storyline between Punk and Seth is off piggybacking off of Punk teaming up with Roman. We don't yet have that concrete link between Roman and Seth again. The nice thing about those two is that you can just snap your fingers, do it, and everybody will be like, holy shit, yeah, here we go. You don't really need to do a lot of legwork for that. So in the world where The Rock is not available for this Mania, there's some really intriguing options like Seth or Drew McIntyre for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I will say, if The Rock is available, just do Rock Roman. Get it out of the way. Just do it. Don't save it. Don't save it another year. You never know with the Rock schedule. Just do it.
I agree. Just do it. Agreed. All right, we got a couple of super chats here. We got Terrence Johnson who says, my last donut was about his last donation was about his earlier theory. Oh, thank you. So Terrence had theorized that he believes Dakota Kai was the one who took out Kyrie. That's what his theory was prior to that. I didn't see it too much. Do you see it though, Santi? Do you think
Well, no. PFC admitted to it. They
oh shit! I missed that completely.
Yeah. That was last week in a backstage segment interview.
Alright, okay, hold on. It's been almost like 30 minutes. I think I talked about Monday Night Raw, talked about the Masters, talked about the Masters for next week. I let you guys listen to some of the podcasters like JD from New York, Solomon the Sound Off, Denise Salcedo. We do have Fight for Pro Wrestling with Sean WhatsApp. He's also going to see his review.
Why don't we use this opportunity to, bring Ricky Starks out?
We'll get one of these in the mail.
Is that
Or
Triple H
maybe-
apology number 1 or 3?
Here's Joe Cronin, the Joe Cronin Show. There's also a Bad Day 7 with the Judgment Day already for 2025. Now, there wasn't that much to talk about Monday Night Raw. I went through all the matches. Thought the opener was fine, the main event 7 was fine. I thought the matches for the woman were fine. Chad Gable and Olaf was fine. Pete Dunne went after R-Truth, and we had a 6-man tag with Priest, the War Raiders versus the Judgment Day. Hopefully that feud come to an end. CM Punk and Seth Rollins was a very good segment to close out the show. Sheamus and Ludwig, they're still continuing their feud. I think that was it, really.
Differently. What do you guys want to see more of? What do you want to see less of?
Okay, so, now let's talk about some of the news and rumors here. Now this is that the new one that I didn't get to see?
Tonight, AEW has World's End live from Orlando, Florida, and it is the very last time that AEW has this year to convince fans that things are going to change for the better going into 2025. There is not one single thing on this show that I'm genuinely interested in from a storyline perspective. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be a great wrestling show. AEW always puts on great wrestling pay-per-views. But story is key. Where did all the excitement go? Where did all of the fanfare go? Where did all of the interest go? AEW, by every metric, going into next year, is down across the board. And Tony Khan is not helping. Tony Khan firmly believes that airing the All-In footage for CM Punk and Jack Perry at All-In helped AEW all throughout 2024 and helped land them a major TV rights contract from Warner Brothers Discovery. The man is slowly losing his mind. AEW Shockwave, where is that show? Are the rumors for that show coming on Fox? True, I got the very latest on that, and AEW Shockwave will not be making any waves on Fox Sports. And the reason is very simple to understand. We got a major faction in WWE moving from Raw to SmackDown, and WWE wants 2-night pay-per-views across the board. It will not just be WrestleMania and SummerSlam. WWE wants to expand 2-night pay-per-views across their pay-per-view calendar. going on into 25 and 26. We got the latest on all these stories today. On Saturday, it is December 28th, 2024, right here on Off the Scripts. We'll start with WWE PLEs. WWE wants to expand every other premium live event that is not WrestleMania and not SummerSlam to 2-night events. TKO Chief Operating Officer Mark Shapiro previously discussed at the UBS Global Media and Communications Conference the idea of expanding the 2-day format for WWE Premium Live Events, PLEs, beyond WrestleMania. The recent announcement of 2-night SummerSlam events in both 2025 and 2026 seemingly indicates that a potential shift in the presentation of major WWE events is coming. During the latest episode of WrestleVotes Radio, new projects means new projects.
Oh, hold on, there's a commercial. Hope y'all can hear the commentary from Judy from New York.
On Sportskeeda's Backstage Pass on Patreon, it was noted that WWE was considering making the Royal Rumble a 2-night show. So they say, and I quote, so in a follow-up, we were told that WWE is indeed considering making certain PLEs 2 nights, with the next option being the Royal Rumble event. We are told WWE considering this option for Indianapolis this year, but decided to hold off for a few different reasons. It is on the table for 2026. Some within the company expect it to be 2 nights in 2026. In addition, a source states that Money in the Bank could also be headed to multiple nights by 2027 as well. So, they go on to say, it seems like they're going to advance these PLEs to 2-night formats, where the card kind of does that form for the Royal Rumble. Easy one night is a men's Royal Rumble main event. The next night would be a women's Royal Rumble main event. Same with Money in the Bank. One night would be the men's ladder match. The second night would be the women's ladder match. That is, I think, from the majority of the fan base, from what we were seeing with WrestleMania, and then recently, as of this year, with SummerSlam, now moving to 2 nights next year at MetLife Stadium in the New York, New Jersey area. I think fans kind of realized that this is where WWE was going with all of their major, at least the Big Five, all of their major Big Five PLEs. WWE is, you see what they are strategically doing with their PLEs. They started with WrestleMania, then they moved on to SummerSlam, which is, by all accounts, their second biggest show of the year, and it is the WrestleMania of the summer. WrestleMania's 2 nights, SummerSlam's 2 nights. Royal Rumble is the third biggest show that they do all year, or the third biggest PLE that they do all year. So it would be, I think, not surprising to see the Royal Rumble move from 1 night to 2 nights. And then you start going to Money in the Bank, and then maybe we start doing Survivor Series, and then that would round out the Big 5 PLEs for WWE in their calendar year. And then you can fill in the B-level pay-per-views. You got your Saudi pay-per-views, your Crown Jewel, your Super Showdowns, and all that type, King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring, whatever it may be. Then you move on to the Backlashes and the Elimination Chambers, which all of the B-level pay-per-views and everything in between the major 5 are going to be international shows, and WWE certainly wants to expand on the international markets for their PLEs. I am okay, believe it or not, I am okay with the Royal Rumble going 2 nights, but we all know WWE's not going to stop there. It's not going to stop there. The product is hot. The company's the hottest that it's ever been. They're making more money now than in any other point in their entire hit. Play out over a week.
Now let's see, any other news and rumors I can get? Oh, actually, wait a minute. Hold on. That was, just Alex. Yeah, let's see his, review for a minute. Now, I'm gonna show you JD from New York and his partner Jesse talk about AEW World's End 2024 pay-per-view.
felt like it was completely overbooked. Completely overbooked. It felt like it didn't really have any structure to the story when they got done telling it. When they get to the end of it, when you get FTR coming out and them bringing out Edge, Adam Copeland. My first reaction was, what does FTR have to do with this? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. They took out FTR and everything else, so that's why FTR came out. And I'm like, is that the whole reason of them taking out FTR? So they had a way to introduce Copeland back into the mix? But I thought Copeland wasn't done with Christian Cage at that point, though. So I'm trying to figure out, what does Christian Cage have to do with the main event segment? Because we know he has to breach the contract. Okay, great, because they kept showing him. But then they brought Adam Copeland back because now he's interested in Moxley in the main event scene, which I'm not sure how that works out because the guy's been gone all year. But somehow it's not. I mean, clearly it's going to be Moxley and Copeland. But now we get the Christian Cage factor with the contract, and the whole thing was complete. When the show was over. This is my whole point. When the show was over, I was left a little bit lost of what I was supposed to be focused on. Christian Cage, Copeland. They already set up the 6-man tag for FTR rated R versus the Death Riders. But how does Copeland just jump into this just because FTR got beat up? It feels like the problem is, this is the main storyline. This is the main event storyline. FTR has been treated like jobbers for weeks, and now all of a sudden they're in a main event picture because they know Adam Copeland, they're his next door neighbor or something. I don't understand how this is all supposed to be coming together storyline-wise.
I wish I could.
Being a football player with
Come on now.
is challenging. The football locker room is always a place where
I could tell you, bro. I honestly wish I could tell you. I don't even know where to begin with this. First of all, the main event was terrible. We knew that. We knew that coming in. Jay White, love Jay White. Fucking adore the guy. He's so great. Orange Cassidy, I mean, whatever. He's a very subjective topic amongst wrestling fans for one reason or another. I don't have a problem with him like other people do. They lose sleep over this fucking guy's gimmick. I don't give a shit. Does he belong there? No. He got his ass beat by the fucking Death Riders at the last pay-per-view. He didn't belong there, so he's still hanging around. Adam Page, I don't believe, you know what, you want to know what my first thought about this entire shit show was? I don't believe Adam Page feels this insignificant out of everybody that was in the ring tonight. I don't believe he was sacrificed for this fucking garbage storyline and this stupid fucking overbooked mess of a main event. Adam Page, I am going to say this until I am blue in the fucking face. How this man is not the world champion after what we saw coming out of the summer and going on into the fucking blood and guts match and then into All Out is fucking mind-boggling to me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. That aura is dead. Dead. Adam Page was the best fucking character you had across this entire show, and he feels as lifeless as anything all year. How could you fucking be okay with that aspect alone? I don't get it. You sacrificed him for what? FTR? The Death Riders? I don't understand this. This is a product of a company and a fucking CEO who wants what he wants, and that's it. Bryan winning the world championship was a great moment, but you derailed literally everything that followed because you made that one decision to put him in the main event of All In and have him win the world championship. So Page suffers, Swerve suffers. I don't believe Swerve and Page, who legitimately is probably top 2 feud of all time in 5 years, feels this insignificant, Jesse. That's the problem I have with this shit. And you know how much we've hyped up Adam Page and the fact that he should have ended Bryan's reign and run and retired him and all this other nonsense. And this is what we get at the end of the year, man. He's going into 2025 limping with no direction at all on television.
Yeah, that's a good point. They had Hangman in a spot to be the guy. the guy, and that's gone. I don't know what happened there. That just fizzled out, and they just gave him L after L. He's not booked that strong. Nobody cares anymore. I would say I don't know how they keep doing this, but they do it all the time with people who are white hot, and then all of a sudden they fizzle off to nothing. That happens way too often than it should. But Hangman, they had something. They had something big there, and that's gone. Jay White, they managed to build him up to the point where he makes sense to be around here, but at the same time, it just doesn't feel important enough. Now we got Copeland back. What does that mean for everybody who was in this main event tonight?
I don't know what it means for everybody in the main event. What the fuck does it mean? I mean, what do you think is going to happen here? You see what's playing out here. I mean, how many fucking groups are they going to end up running through before we get to Moxley and Darby Allin at fucking All In? Because you know exactly where it's going to take place. It's their biggest show. It's their WrestleMania. They're going to crown this fucking kid at All In and have him win the World Championship. After all of these groups, bro, fall to the Death Riders. By the time we get there, everybody is going to be a fucking wasteland of casualties for Darby Allin. I mean, and you see what they've done with him. Has he been treated as a guy that's going to overtake the fucking Death Riders? I mean, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Moxley bashing. I don't know why. Jon Moxley is absolutely great at what he does, and he's doing great for what he is being given to do. And I think we need to preempt that once again. Our frustration is not with the talent. All right, it is not about what they are doing in the ring. So if you don't like what's going on with Moxley and everything else with the story, it is not Moxley's fault. He is carrying out what he's being given to do. But what he's given to do is trash.
I mean, people are in the chat saying that Moxley is booking this entire storyline. I don't know who's booking what. I don't care. I don't care. I judge Jesse judges what we see on TV. Whoever is booking it is clearly a fucking hack. I mean, this was terrible. Everybody looks fucking terrible coming out of this. The high spot of the match was Marina Shafir getting a Blade Runner from Jay White. I mean, we set up the end of the pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view of the entire year, went off the air with them hyping up a simulcast on Max for a trios match between Copeland and FTR against the Death Riders on Wednesday's Dynamite. That's what they went off the air with. That's what you end your pay-per-view with. The last pay-per-view 2024. And then, like Jesse said, we go from the competitors in the ring. Wheeler Useless is in the fucking main event causing havoc in 2024. Whoever made that fucking decision, I mean, he should be fucking fired immediately. We got Adam Copeland out there returning. Love Adam Copeland. Not a bad thing to say ever about Adam Copeland. Rated FTR, whatever the fuck they want to go and call themselves, fantastic. But then you got Copeland and Moxley. Copeland's making a claim that everything that the Death Riders have is going to be theirs. They want the trios titles, they want the world title, whatever the case may be. Fine. But then you highlight Christian Cage. Christian Cage and Adam Copeland haven't crossed paths at all since Adam Copeland took back the TNT title from Christian Cage. So they haven't crossed paths at all. Christian Cage is just there, Jesse, by happenstance because he holds the contract that he won at All In for the AEW World Championship opportunity that he's yet to cash in. So you clearly see where they're positioning this. Copeland's going to be the next one to get a shot at Moxley. Christian's probably going to cash in to take the title from Moxley and then have the cherry on top because his ex-best friend, he wants to stifle him. He's not going to have him win the championship, so he's going to do whatever he can to get involved with that. And then they're inevitably going to cross paths because of that. And then we'll probably get that feud revisited as well, going on into Revolution or Double or Nothing or worst case, All In. So you can see where they're going with it, but I mean, none of it is exciting at all. None of it. Like, I have no emotional tie-in to any of these characters because of the last 6 months of story they've told the Death Riders, which has gone nowhere. And casualty, body after body, lining up to a point where we all as a fan base are starting to ask questions. When is enough with this shit? None of it feels like a company takeover. None of it feels like a threat. None of this is resembling, AEW being in trouble. So what are we doing? How is this storytelling? And why are people so hung up on this as the #1 story in the company?
That's another good point too. This does not feel like some kind of takeover of the company. And either it's supposed to, and they're failing at it, or they just dropped that part of the
With 50 months.
I think I showed that long enough. I'm not gonna show too much of it. Now this is Salamato Sound off. Let's see what Salamato Sound had to say about AEW World Ends. Hold on. Hold on.
So you can't say that.
Hold on. Hold on. Damn it. Hold on.
So you can't say that.
So, these were the matches on AEW World's End on the pay-per-view on Saturday. Now, for the pre-show 0 hour, we had Jeff Jarrett versus QT Marshall, Tony Storm and Layla Gray, the Outgunners and Top Flight versus Brian Cage, Lance Archer, Aston Nageti, and Leo Rush. That was in the pre-show. The main show, we had the AEW International Championship, Kosho Kotana versus Powerhouse Hobbs. We had Mercedes Moné defending the TBS Championship against Chris Dunlatner. We had MJF and Adam Cole for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. We had Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fester for the Continental Classic semifinals. We had Okada versus Ricochet in the other semifinals. Then we had another one that's to be announced. Then we had Thunder Rosa and Maria May for the AEW World Championship. John Moxley versus Orange Cassidy versus Jay White versus Heyman Page in a fatal 4-way for the AEW World Championship.
Adam Copeland is not a big name. And Tony Khan is getting back some of his big guns. He's getting them healthy again at exactly the time that he wants them. Because they're starting their simulcasts on Max starting this Wednesday. We're heading into a brand new year. And so he's got Adam Copeland back. And he's got another big name back as well that I'm going to be talking about in the form of one Kenny Omega, who is wrestling his first match next weekend at the Tokyo Dome. Although Tony Schiavone, apparently, if you were to listen to him tonight, he has no concept of this whatsoever. Because the way he was talking on commentary, boy, it's going to be a while before Kenny gets himself in ring shape and we see him back in the ring. Really? Really? It's just hilarious to me because not only is he wrestling next weekend, it's not like AEW has ignored it. They literally aired a video package for Kenny Omega and mentioned the fact that he is going to be working the Tokyo Dome next weekend. But apparently Tony Schiavone pays attention to what he wants. The Continental Classic. I mentioned that a moment ago, and I mentioned the fact that last year it was Eddie Kingston who got the win. The finalists this year were Okada, Ospreay, Fletcher, and Ricochet. And without the Continental Classic matches, this show would have been far worse than it was. Those matches are what carried this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And you had the finals of the Continental Classic, which I would say Okada and Ospreay probably gets the nod from me for match of the night. But it's either that or Ospreay's match with Fletcher. Either way, the common denominator here is Will Ospreay, who continues to just go out there and absolutely kill it every single time he is in the ring, regardless of who he's in the ring with. This is the story of his career now for the past few years. We got some great action. The fans were super into the tournament matches, most of them tonight. And at the end of the finals, which saw Kazuchika Okada retain his Continental Championship, he won his first tournament, but he is still the Continental Champion. We got the return of Kenny Omega. Once again, back as an EVP at AEW. He came down to the ring and we had a face-to-face confrontation as he presented Okada with the Continental title, and we had a not-so-subtle visual behind them of the banner for All In Texas, which is coming up on July 12th, their big stadium show next summer. It seems very clear at this point what Tony Khan is waiting for in order to do that match. As he should, because that really is the show that makes the most sense. It was good to see Kenny back. I figured he was going to be there. I mean, I talked about this on Wednesday during my Dynamite review. I said, this is what we're going to get here on this show. We're going to get a face-to-face with Okada and Omega, and that's exactly what we got. Kenny is making his return in Japan. Tony wanted to get Omega on his show, even though Dynasty is partially an AEW show, but he wanted to get Kenny some face time on his own program before he flies over to Japan. And he came out there, he was in his suit, right? He looked good, he looked rested. Hopefully he'll look good in the ring. We'll find out when he wrestles Gabe Kidd. We still don't know what Kenny is going to look like in ring yet. He hasn't had a match. But it's great to see him back and getting back into the swing of things. And provided he looks good next weekend, Tony needs to get him back on TV as soon as possible. But the build for Okada and Omega began in earnest tonight here on this pay-per-view. Continental Classic, I thought, was the highlight of the show. All the matches that we saw tonight. I'm going to talk about Ricochet as well. There's been a lot of talk about Ricochet, and we're going to get into Ricochet. The other thing that happened tonight also, I hope, God I hope, is that we saw the end. Finito, done, finally, finished, with MJF and Adam Cole. It started more than a year ago with the whole brochacho stuff, and we had the MJF and Adam Cole bromance, and it led into what we saw at World's End a year ago. And then everything was shot to hell. Because not only was Adam Cole hurt, MJF got hurt. He had to go away. He had to heal up. And it completely screwed the entire thing up. All their plans, all of Tony Khan's plans, up in smoke. And ever since they both came back, they have not been able to get the train back on the tracks. This is not clicking. This is not working. It's not firing in the way that it was a year ago. And I think it's, frankly, actively been dragging down MJF. More than anything else, which is the last thing that you want to do. Tony Khan tonight, it felt like he was trying to put a bow on this and move on. I don't know if he's going to move on. I don't know that we're done for sure with these two, but we should be. This should be the end of MJF and Adam Cole, and they should both move on to something else.
Exactly.
That's really what I like the most about this. It wasn't even the match. It was the fact that it felt like we finally put a period on this. We can move on. Kind of the way I've been feeling for a while now about Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Right? We're going to hopefully put a period on that too on January 6th. That's how I felt about MJF and Adam Cole. Hopefully that was the end. As far as surprises on the show, you got him in Copeland and Omega. Those were the two big surprises. Honestly, the biggest surprise, even bigger than those two, was that the pay-per-view ended at 11:30. No complaints out of me. I could sit here and tell you I was surprised the main event went less time than the finals of the Continental Classic did. But I'm not complaining. Rare that you get an AEW pay-per-view that goes off the air that early. Hopefully that's the beginning of a trend. But to me, that was the biggest surprise of the entire night. This was better than last year's World's End. World's End last year was not a great show. It was one of the weaker AEW shows of the year. What I will tell you is that four-way main event that we got tonight, the AEW World Championship, that was, if not the weakest, one of the weakest and worst main events that we have gotten all year on any AEW pay-per-view. And part of that is the fact that they usually deliver on their pay-per-views. We've gotten some fucking great main events this year out of this company on these shows. This will not go down as one of them. I sat here watching this match and I just found myself completely disinterested, completely disconnected from everything that was going on. And I hate it because Hangman Page has been one of my favorite parts of the show for the majority of this year. In the way that I can look at WWE and say, oh, Drew McIntyre, he's been one of the highlights of the entire year. Bronson Reed, he was the highlight of Monday Night Raw for a good chunk of the year. Right? You can pick certain people out who really stood out and helped carry the show. Hangman Page and this whole metamorphosis in his character and this whole unhinged persona that he's been doing, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it, and when he had that cage match with Swerve Strickland at All Out, and he beat him, and he won, you know, needle in the mouth and all, I thought, this is the perfect time to put the championship on him. You can get away from Hangman and Swerve for a while, and then you can build to eventually bringing it back at some point next year. You can run it back, and if you're going to put the belt back on Swerve, why not have him beat Hangman to do it, right? That's one of the longer stories they've been telling in this company. But Hangman, he was poised, he was ready, he was right there. Felt like he was on the precipice of, you know, being back in the title picture and getting the belt back on him. And I watched what they did tonight. You know, he was in the main event, he was challenging for the championship, but the show ends and I'm just left here wondering, using him as an example, what's next for him, right? Where does he go from here? Is he just going to be shunned down to the side, or is he still going to be part of the title picture? Swerve's moved on. Swerve's going to be working with Ricochet. What's Hangman going to be doing? Where do we go from here now that Copeland is back? I mean, great for Copeland. He's in a cushy spot now, but what about some of these other guys? I'm not concerned about Orange Cassidy, but Jay White, Hangman Page, I'm curious now to see where they go with those guys. But this whole Moxley and Death Rider stuff, I had no expectation that he was going to lose the championship tonight, so I'm not going to tell you, oh, I'm disappointed in the outcome because I thought we were going to have a new champion. No, at no point did I think that. But you got the usual Death Riders interference and the nonsense and the overbooked bullshit there at the end of the match. You know, and it's everything that was wrong with the NWO stuff when they got to the point where they jumped the shark. And everything that was wrong with all the overbooked TNA main events that they had with Jeff Jarrett on pay-per-view back in the day. Like, you can point to these different eras in different companies and say, God, man, I think back to those days and all this nonsense. I'm so glad we don't have that anymore. That's what we have now with the Death Riders. But at least if this thing was clicking, if it was interesting, if I can almost excuse it, but in this case, it just sucks. Now, is Copeland and FTR being involved going to change that? I don't know. Probably not, but I don't know. Clearly, they're still building to Moxley and Darby at some point. I thought Revolution would be the time to do it, but now that Copeland is back, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure they're not building to Moxley and Copeland at Revolution.
Yeah.
At the beginning of March. So I'm not sure as far as the timing on all that. And I can't tell you it's a match that really excites me, but they had to start involving some bigger names in this. Copeland is a big name. So to that end, it makes sense for him to want to go after Jon Moxley, for him to want to fly the flag of AEW. But to me, it just rings a little hollow when you have all these other guys, these younger guys, like a Darby. And again, I think they will get there with him. They're holding off on him. But, you know, for Copeland to be the one who comes in now, he's going to try to be the savior of AEW. All right. I mean, that's the story they're trying to tell. I was not a fan of that main event tonight.
Me neither.
I actually think that they would have been better off closing the show with the finals of the Continental Classic and the return of Kenny Omega and the tease of an eventual match with him and Okada. That would have been a far better way to go off the air. But they wanted to end with the title. They wanted Copeland and the big surprise. Honestly, I was more excited to see Kenny back than I was Copeland. I would have closed the show with that. On the whole, I think there was a mix of good and not so good. More good than bad. More good than bad on this show. I think overall, it was a good show, but it was largely carried by the Continental Classic stuff. And there was also a TBS title match that was very good with Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander. So
Yeah.
we're going to get into the whole card here, up and down. And there was an international title match also that turned into a pretty good match. We'll talk about all of it. This is your AEW World's End Review 2024, the final pay-per-view.
Alright. I think that's all. I talked about AEW.
Probably around
Talked about AEW. I showed you the podcasters. I think I'm gonna end the video. I made this long enough. It's been, I think, like an hour now. It had to have been like an hour. So I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support. Hit that like button. Leave a comment. I'll be back with more. Until that time, I will see y'all later.